Here we go.
Where we are.
Yeah, so you won't know this from the other side of the screen, but we've been gone for 5 weeks.
Whew. I had a baby.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm a father now. Well, my wife had the baby, but
yes, to be accurate. So I was wrong when I said that.
Exactly.
So I should have caught that.
This is not a new scientific thing. No. But yes, I have a daughter now. She is now 2 weeks, almost a month. Wow.
Yeah, the time of recording, yeah. Yeah, we're going to look back on this recording and be like, dang, time flies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I got a new cut. I had to take a test at my job, a little respirator test. I'm going to back out. I lost about, 5 years? Well, it depends on who you ask. Some people say I look older. You look like a dad. I'm like, okay, well, I'm a dad. I'll take that.
and to make them not feel bad, I kind of trim mine down a little bit too. So, but if you listen on the podcast, you really doesn't matter. Just use your imagination.
Use your I was just about to say, use your imagination.
Imagine two beerless fellas here.
Exactly.
But anyways, I'm not totally beerless, but I wasn't going to meet you all the way there.
I got a shadow. If you look close, you can see it coming back in. It was. I was naked at really like
a mole rat.
Yeah.
But it's good to break it up a little bit, with some humor, because we are talking about a serious topic today. Mm-hmm. So we are talking about, we're still on a sex series, and we're talking about sex trafficking today.
Man.
And we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to define our terms, because sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. We're talking about the network of sex trafficking.
Right.
We're going to talk about some myths and rumors. We're going to talk about knowing what to look for. Mm-hmm. And then also, people be surprised that trafficking actually happens in the church.
Absolutely.
So
that was one of the most surprising things for me as we were studying. Wow, you got predators coming in here. I call them predators because they in here.
They know what they are. Yeah,
yeah, in here hunting for people within the church. It's crazy, and even some of the myths. I'm like, wow, I believe that myth, and it's not true. So let's get into it.
Yeah, and also every 68 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted, and every 9 minutes, that victim is a child.
Oh, my goodness.
And this comes from rain.org, right? And we'll have that resource posted in the description as well. Mm. But let's get into definitions real fast. So, trafficking in persons. You may have heard the term before, but trafficking in persons, human trafficking, and modern slavery are kind of umbrella terms, right, often used interchangeably to refer to a crime whereby traffickers exploit and profit at the expense of adults or children by compelling them to perform labor or engage in commercial sex. Moving on, sex trafficking is the illegal business of recruiting, harboring, transporting, obtaining, or providing a person, and especially a minor, for the purpose of sex. Mm-hmm. Labor trafficking is the legal business of engaging in forced labor. And human smuggling involves the provision of a service, typically the transportation or fraudulent documents, to an individual who voluntarily seeks to gain illegal entry into a foreign country. And it is possible the crime may start out as human smuggling, but quickly turn into human trafficking.
Right.
And then human trafficking and human smuggling are not interchangeable terms.
No.
Trafficking is exploitation-based, and smuggling is transportation-based. Right. And we're going to get into more of that in coming up next, pretty much, But yeah, so we just feel like we need to define our terms before we start talking about things, and people are like, wait, wasn't this that, or isn't this, or what about that? And so we just feel like we got to define our terms so we can be more accurate. But also, we're going to focus more on sex trafficking for the purpose of this episode, so that way it kind of fits into the theme or the series of the On Sex series, right?
Absolutely.
So, and then also how we as Christians can help, be vigilant and do our duties.
That's our job.
So let's talk a little bit about some of these myths and rumors that we got going on here.
Oh yeah.
Also this link will be provided in the description as well, so you can just click on it from there. But this comes from the PolarisProject.org. Hey Jim, you want to take the first one?
Absolutely. Myth number 1: traffickers target victims they don't know. Fact, many survivors have been trafficked by romantic partners, including spouses, and by family members, including parents. Man,
that's crazy.
It is. I remember as we were doing the research, I was watching a video, and it was a young lady saying that her parents were trafficking her, and she was being sexually trafficked by her parents. And I'm like, wow, the people that when you're born, you should be the first people that you trust are trafficking you for sex. That's amazing. And she's a little bitty kid. Like, I think about how do you come to a point of ever trusting people when the first people you were supposed to trust did that to you?
And here's the thing, that's ridiculous. I think I've seen that same video, but I don't know if it's that same video or it was a different one, but in that same video or in that same idea of a parent trafficking these children, that these children are going to school.
Yeah.
They're enrolled in school. They're going to school. They're doing the homework. They're getting maybe mediocre grades. I don't know, maybe straight A's, whatever. But they're doing the homework, right? And you would think they're unwiser. They got clothes. They don't look shabby, of course, because they're making money, right? So you'd be none the wiser, you know. But this is happening under our noses,
right? Some of the parents are they're on drugs, and so with I guess they would call them pimps or whatever term they have for them. Someone would call pimps. They're supplying the parents with drugs, but in return, I'm supplying you with drugs. I need your child, and I'm going to traffic them.
Or even just in a sense with this opioid epidemic, right?
Right.
I was watching this the documentary on HBO Max called Heroin USA, and a lot of these kids that got on heroin, it came about because they had an injury. You know, some sort, either a sports injury or fell off a motorcycle or whatever, car accident. Wow. Well, I think one girl got in a car accident, banged her head. But anyways, you know, they got only painkillers and opioids because of an accident, you know, a legitimate accident, right? And they were legitimate parts of the community. Some of these kids, they were football team members or whatever, part of the community. People you would never think that, wait, you got a drug addiction?
Right.
Why? How? Right. But that's how, right? And then some of these girls, they're telling stories about how they did sell themselves, you know, for sex, you know, to get money to pay for drugs. You know, some of these teens still live with their parents, and their parents were enabling it. So there are like household, like the whole vertical arrangement, the whole vertical relationship from mother to child. You know, they're both entangled in the drug business, you know, and selling for sex, stuff like that. So it can get real thorny and real, you know, entangled.
And that's why I'm glad we did the episode on dating, because as it said there too, that a romantic relationship, you meet this individual, you're dating this individual, it can be guy or gal, but is you start to get close with them, and then next thing you know, they slowly bring you into that world, and you had no idea this is somebody that you trusted.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Let's go on to the next one. So the next myth is human trafficking only happens in illegal or underground industries. The fact is that human trafficking cases have been reported and prosecuted in industries including restaurants, cleaning services, construction, factories, and more. And there are actually at least 25 industries where trafficking has been known to occur. And again, this is from the Polaris Project. They actually, like, you know, using interviews, and they use like a lot of different data points. I'm telling you, I'm gonna put these links in the description. It was just mind blowing to see how much data they can actually account for. You know, and then there's also a whole lot they can't account for too.
I couldn't believe it when we were looking at all the different industries. I'm like, what is
amusement parks?
What is going on?
You know,
right under our nose,
under our noses. And again, some of this is there's some overlap between human trafficking and sex trafficking. Right. You know, there's some overlap there, so it may not always be sex trafficking, but you know, a lot of times human trafficking does lead to sex trafficking.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not all the time, but it's a lot of the time does. Take the next one.
Absolutely. Myth number 3. People being trafficked are physically unable to leave their situations, or they're locked in or held against their will. That is sometimes the case. More often, however, people in trafficking situations stay for reasons that are more complicated. Some lack the basic necessities to physically get out, such as transportation or a safe place to live. Some are afraid for their safety. Some have been effectively manipulated that they do not identify at this point as being under the control of another person.
So, in other words, what happens is people ask the question, if you're being trafficked, why don't you get out?
Right.
Why don't you just run away?
Right.
That's why.
Or people will even say, if it was me, I'd run away.
Mm-hmm.
If it was me, I'd get out. Nobody gonna make me do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what did Peter say to Jesus?
Exactly.
I won't leave you, Jesus. No, I'm your rock.
Right. I won't deny you.
Yeah, that rock crumbled.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, but that's the idea of like we get into the position of saying what we will do in certain situations, but we're not in those situations. You don't know what you're gonna do.
You never.
You don't know the knives that are being held to the throats of other family members and why people do certain things. We see this in movies. It's like, oh yeah, sure, do whatever you want to me. I'm not gonna tell you nothing. And then they bring out the wife or whatever and be like, oh yeah, you're gonna tell us everything.
You need to know.
So
it can be a lack of compassion, man, to just make statements like that without considering what you're about to say. Like, oh, I wouldn't do, or oh, it's like, oh yeah,
yeah.
Everybody is a strong superhero till they get in a situation.
I mean, I was just watching I finally got around to watching that 3-hour Batman versus Superman, the Zack Snyder one.
It was all right.
And, it was all right, but even in the same context, you talk about how you think you're all big and bad until someone you love gets drugged into the picture.
Exactly.
Same thing happened to Superman.
Yep. And then,
right there.
Then we don't have to go that deep to look at the manipulation aspect. Like, most of us know someone who's in a relationship that they shouldn't be in, but manipulation has taken place and they just won't get out of it.
Yeah.
There's no gun being put to their head. There's nothing forcing them to be there.
We're going to talk about that. It's coming up too. Yeah.
There you go.
It's coming up. So let's go ahead and move on. So the next myth, human trafficking involves moving, traveling, or transporting a person across state or national borders. The truth is, human trafficking is often confused with human smuggling, which involves illegal border crossings. In fact, the crime of human trafficking does not require any movement whatsoever. Survivors can be recruited and trafficked in their own hometowns and even their own homes. That is pivotal to understanding, sex trafficking, all right? Because so often, and it's reinforced in movies and just the common trope is this whole idea that you got to be kidnapped. And it's like, no, you don't. You don't have to be kidnapped.
That was one of the myths that I believed, was that they just out here running up, snatching people up, you know, and to find out that no, it's that boyfriend you had or that girlfriend, or oh, it's your parents, or oh, you were manipulated into going into. They didn't necessarily put a gun to your head, but they might as well have.
You might as well have.
The way they manipulated you into it. I remember, and I can't remember if it's in our slides, but the lady, I know she's going to be in our slides, but she talked about how she was stuck in a home where she could only go to the bathroom, only go to the kitchen, and into her room. Yep. And she wasn't allowed to leave. That, man, it's scary.
Yeah.
To think about that.
Yeah, there was some years ago, there was 4 girls found, I want to say it was Cincinnati. And they were found 12 miles from where they lived.
Wow. 12 miles.
I think it was 12 miles. Something like that, or 12 blocks, something like that. It was number 12 somewhere in there.
Right up the road.
Up the road.
Wow.
And it's probably the same zip code.
Wow.
I don't know for sure, but close enough. In the basement. And just you need to knock on the door, check on our neighbors too.